Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. We're glad you're here. I'm Kevin McDonald, your host for this grand adventure, and I thank you for joining us. You see, our mission is to create a positive, personal connection to all things with courage and love. We invite terrific guests, interesting topics, and great conversation, all in a fun, entertaining way. And we always manage to learn something, too. So I hope you will stay right where you are for this episode of Positive Talk Radio. And welcome everybody to Positive Talk Radio. I pressed the wrong button, but that's all right. We're here, and this is good. This is a Monday afternoon in Seattle. It is Thanksgiving week, everybody. I hope you're going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving week. I hope you don't have to work past Wednesday, and maybe even with a little luck, you can get Thursday or Wednesday afternoon off so that you can do what you got to do and go play and be very careful with your health and all of that stuff. So today we have a great guest to talk with us about money in all kinds of ways. We're going to talk with Karen Ford about money. She's written 5 books, 5 books, somewhere in there.
4.
4 books. And she actually had, dare I say it, the #1 bestseller on Amazon, which is Money Matters. And which is a book that can speak to just about everybody, because everybody's interested in money and how to make it and all that kind of stuff. But first, I got to ask you, Karen, because you are an expert in Money Matters, how did you get to be that?
Oh, that's a loaded question right there, but I'll answer it. Actually, I am a registered nurse, but I haven't practiced as a nurse for several years. I had a friend of mine tell me one day, Karen, you're really good with numbers. You're really good with money. I think that you ought to get further education in that money related arena and become a financial coach. And I know some people are listening and watching right now thinking, what does nursing and financial coach have to do with one another? But I went and got further training, became a master financial coach, and I left the nursing field. Nursing, right now in hospitals is very stressful. It can be very stressful, especially the last couple of years, right in the middle of this pandemic. But several years ago, when I left that, they were doing all this charting online. So I left nursing, and I look at it like this, Kevin. I look at it like this. As a nurse, I helped people get healthy physically. But now, as a financial coach, I help people get healthy financially. And honestly, that's just as important because so many people have high blood pressure. They have heart palpitations because of stress. Maybe they overeat because of stress. And sometimes that stress is related to money or the lack thereof. If you have bills that you can't pay, your stress level skyrockets. If you're going to the grocery store, especially now with prices going up with everything, you're at the gas pump, you're paying more, the grocery store, you're paying more. Look, Christmas is around the corner. We want to be able to buy our family and our friends presents that have some type of meaning. It can be a real stressor. So I find that when I help people financially, it's so rewarding because now they see outside the box. So many times when people are in the middle of a situation, they can't see beyond. They can't see, how do I resolve this problem? And I'm an extra pair of eyes. I'm looking from the outside in, and I can see immediately what needs to be adjusted. What can we do here to make this stress level, decrease? And so it's very rewarding for me to help people in that way.
Well, that's awesome. We'll put this into medical terms. How many of us are on a respirator financially?
Right. That's so true. So many people they're just maintaining. They don't see a way out. Or some people are kind of drowning financially. I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, I coached a couple that had literally, and I know some people are going to think I'm lying, and I'm not. They had 86 credit cards. 86. And every one of those credit cards. every one of those credit cards had some kind of balance on them. And those credit card interest rates ranged anywhere between 8% all the way up to 33.3%.
How do you put 80 credit how do you put 80 credit cards in your wallet?
Well, you don't. You carry them around in your purse, or you have them in a dresser drawer and you only carry a few with you at a time. But it was really, what a nightmare. What a nightmare. And the sad thing about it is this couple, they had credit cards together, and this was the first coaching session they asked for. And so, what I do is I ask a series of questions, and one of the last questions I ask is, I'm getting a snapshot of what their finances look like, right? So I said, okay, let's see what your home payment is. Let's see your car payment, your utilities, et cetera. Okay, now we get to the credit cards. We start listing them, and then one of the last questions was, okay, is there anything else? And her face turned beet red. And she said, well, I actually have some credit cards that he doesn't know about.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's a beautiful time. I'll tell you, that's almost like a marriage counseling session. And I said, okay. And I said, so let's list them. And we listed them and got the balance and the monthly payment. And I said, okay, is there anything else? And then his face got beet red. And, and he said, well, I have some credit cards that she doesn't know about. And so so we got all that listed. Together, both of them had about 40 credit cards together that they each knew about. But then when it was all said and done, she had a credit cards she didn't allow her husband to know about, and he had credit cards that he didn't allow his wife to know about. And so after that was said and done, I said, okay, now listen, this could actually be World War III right now, but that's not going to solve anything. Both of you were wrong for not letting each other know. But now we just need to move on because we don't want to take any time to argue or fuss. Let's start attacking and figuring out a way and a plan to get this under wraps and start getting out of debt. Because
So
I'm kind of like a GPS in the area of finances. I can see where you are. And ultimately, if your goal is to get out of debt or to build wealth or maybe all of the above, I'm going to help you get there the quickest. Now, it's up to you. Do you want to take the long way around? Do you want to take 20 hours to get to Disneyland? Or do you want to get there in 3 hours? I'll go with whichever way you want to go. But my ultimate goal is to show you the quickest way to get to your goal, which would be becoming debt free and building wealth.
now you mentioned that before. Did they have separate bank accounts?
They did. And they had a bank account together, but then they each also had separate bank accounts.
That's a bad idea, isn't it?
It's a very bad idea because then you don't know what are the true marital assets here, and the left hand literally does not know what the right hand is doing.
That's
And
how they
so
were able to hide the credit cards.
oh my. And that's really unfortunate. So literally all the cards had to be placed on the table, literally, so that we could attack it. Because listen, if you're married right now and you haven't been forthcoming with your mate, whatever that is, financially, now it's the time just to come clean. And you can always just think, okay, they're going to get upset. And ultimately they probably will, but just already know, okay, come clean. Let's attack this and literally get the cards on the table because that's not healthy. It's really not healthy financially. It's not healthy marriage wise. It's just not healthy.
My brother had a situation like that where they actually had the same bank account, but he never paid attention to it. He
Oh,
expected her to take care of the finances, and so she, on the sly, opened up 3 or 4 credit cards to the tune of like 20 or $30,000 in debt that she
boy.
accumulated over a little bit of time. And he had like I don't know what he was doing, but he wasn't paying attention because he didn't notice.
Right. And that's unfortunate. I've been asked a question, and this is almost $1 million question. Is I'll be asked, who should take care of the budget or who should take care of the money in the family. And sometimes women say, well, the man should. He's the husband, he's the head of the house. And I've heard some men say, I don't want to deal with it. I'll just give her my paycheck and let her take care of the bills and everything. And actually, it should be both of you. It should be a collaboration. And if one of you is better as far as prioritizing and putting things in order, maybe you're a type A personality and you're very organized, there's nothing wrong with you taking the lead in that, whether you're the husband or the wife. There's nothing wrong with that. But the other person in that marriage should not just relegate it to your mate. Both of you should actually, you know, play a part in that. It's okay if you want her to take care of paying the bills, but it needs to be a quick, weekly little 3-minute talk. Just say, okay, these are the bills that are due. This is our pay this week. And this is what I think we should do. I think we should take care of this is just an example. I think we should take care of the mortgage this week and the electric and the gas. And this amount of money we can put in savings, and this amount of money we can put towards investment. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that decision? Or do you want to do something different? Listen, that question right there just took about a minute. And that way, your mate has an opportunity to say, yes, I'm okay with that decision, or no, let's make a slight adjustment here. They need to be on board with what you're going to do. If you're the one that's going to be paying the bills and taking care of that because they want you to, you still need to have their input, right? Because it's both of you together in that relationship. It's okay that you place that person in charge of taking care of the bills and managing it, but you still need to be a part of that decision making process. And I'll tell you why. This will prevent money fights, because let's say you put your mate in charge of it and they're doing it, and you don't get a report, you don't want to report, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, what happened to all that money that we made? Well, now you're asking your mate to tell you what they did with it, and this is months later. So that will actually prevent a money fight. Or maybe you've placed them in charge of it and they decide they're going to go wild, right? Spending for Christmas, but you put them in charge of it. And now it just prevents money fights. And I also suggest to married couples, have some play money, and you can decide how much that play money is. Maybe your play, it's we money, he money, she money, right? So let's say all of your money is together, but then you have money and your mate has money, and you decide how much that is for play. Maybe it's $20 a week for both of you. Maybe it's going to be $100 a week for both of you. You all decide how much that play money is. And the great thing about having play money is, if she decides to go out and buy a new pair of shoes, and she comes home with a new pair of shoes, the mate is not going to say, oh no, you spent money on shoes. No, that was the play money. Or maybe he is going to go play a round of golf or something. Who knows? Whatever it is, whatever the play money is what we call blow money. You can blow it on anything you want. If you want to buy a frou-frou coffee every day, 5 times a day, then you can use your play money, your blow money on it. It doesn't come out of the we account. That also prevents money fights, is
Well,
having that.
exactly. But it would be nice if when we first got married, my wife and I, she'd never been on her own, so she'd never had to pay bills. She had a
Okay.
few, a credit card or two, but she said, no, I think I can do this. So when the overdraft started rolling in,
Oops.
she decided,
Oops.
and the guy was outside, and he had a pliers in his hand, and I said, what you doing? And he said, turning off your water. Why? You haven't paid
Oh.
your bill in 60 days or 90 days. Oh, okay. So we changed that. But what happened was, what what happened then was, she was so frightful of having money, or
Mhm.
having that responsibility, or she
Sure.
wanted nothing to do with it. So
Right.
I would try and sit her down and say, all right, this is what we got. This is our pie. And then we've
Yeah.
got this and we got this. And she said, I don't want to deal with it. You deal with it. Well, it turns out that we were married for 24 years. By the way, 5 of it were just wonderful. And we were married for 24 years. Yeah, that's actually the normal joke is the first 6 months were great.
Oh my goodness.
But so then she's on her own after 24,
Right.
and she
Right.
doesn't know how to handle money. And because
Right.
she never did it, she never wanted to do it, and all of a sudden she made the decision to leave, and she all of a sudden had to do it, and she failed miserably at it. And
Right.
are you able to get somebody to get over that fear of money and managing it so that they can look at it like a positive challenge rather than, oh God, I have to go pay bills and I don't have any money.
Well, sure. Sometimes if people have never handled money for whatever reason, maybe they grew up in a home and they just never had that opportunity. And so there is a real fear there. And what happens is they'll contact me to coach them. And sometimes they'll want me to coach them once a month just so that they have that accountability. And so this brings me to the point of having an accountability partner. It doesn't necessarily have to be a financial coach. However, a financial coach is a great accountability partner because we're going to make sure all of your I's are dotted and all of your T's are crossed. And it's actually a good check, especially if you have that fear and you're thinking, man, I don't want to miss a bill. I don't want to overspend in this area. Certainly, you're the one that's going to make that decision, but having an accountability partner is a big plus. Now, let me caution you here. Your accountability partner really, truly needs to be the accountability partner. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say that there's a lady that has an accountability partner. Your accountability partner is not going to do this. Let's say you go and you want to go buy a new pair of shoes and you show it to your accountability partner. Hey, what do you think about these new pair of shoes? And your partner says, you know what? Those look great. Get 10 pair. No, 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 no. Your accountability partner needs to be able to speak the truth with kindness, the truth in love. In other words, your accountability partner needs to be able to say, you know what? Those shoes look great on you. But right now, I think you need to wait until your next paycheck, or I think you need to wait until next month. They need to be able to say to you, maybe things that you don't necessarily want to hear, or not necessarily be the yes person. You don't want a yes person to be your accountability partner. You want your accountability partner to be able to tell you the truth.
That would be nice because there are times. Well, you know how it is. Well,
Yeah.
you being a woman, you know what it's like. I used to be a shoe salesman,
Yeah.
a lady shoe salesman, and women go into the shoe department and they want to buy a pair of shoes, and they're hell bent on buying a pair of shoes because
Yes.
they get that's for them that's their guilty pleasure.
That's right.
and
That's
but
right.
but then they go in there expecting to spend $39.95 for a pair of shoes, and the one that just the salesman brings out and just she falls in love with is 114.50, and
Right.
that's and then
Right.
they go for that, and then they're in trouble. And it's easy to with finances. It is so easy to get into trouble if you're not careful. And I'm glad that you're out there to do it. Let's talk about your books.
All
Um,
right.
which when Money Matters is the one that went to number one in Amazon,
Yes.
and that one. Tell us a little bit about that book.
Well, I entitled that book Money Matters for two reasons. The first reason is money really does matter.
You do.
You have to have money, right? I mean, if you're going to eat, if you're going to pay bills, if you're going to buy a house, if you're going to pay rent, you have to have money. So money really does matter. The second reason I entitled that book Money Matters is because that book encapsulates all the matters surrounding money, whether you want to learn how to budget properly, and the key word is properly. All right. Uh, the second thing that it will do is if you want to learn how to demolish debt, how do you get rid of debt? What's the sequence? What should you do? The third thing that it's going to cover is your mindset. Is it really all that important to have the right thoughts regarding money? Absolutely. Because thoughts become words, words become action, action become habits, and habits become a way of life. So if you're always saying, oh, I'll never get out of debt, I'll never get out of debt, I'll never get out of debt, everything within you is going to move you towards that. You'll never get out of debt. Why? Because you keep saying it. No, we have to think right thoughts so that we speak right words and then we have right actions to line up to those words. So it's not just robotic words. We have to get our thought life right. And I talk about that in a particular chapter of that book. And then I also talk about wealth building. How do we prepare for retirement? Do we do an IRA? Do we have a 401k? Do we invest in stocks in the stock market? What about real estate investing? So, all of those things surrounding money, all of those matters surrounding money is in that book. But I want to go back just for a moment about budgeting. And the reason I said budgeting properly is because sometimes what people do is they'll pay me to coach them, right? They pay for a coaching session. We go over a budget. And I tell them, listen, that budget is not going to work if you go home and you put it in a drawer and never look at it. That budget is only going to work is if you follow it. So you need to keep it out, whether it's on your refrigerator, wherever you're going to put it, that needs to be in your face and you need to follow the budget. You can't say, oh, okay, well, I budgeted, $500 for 4 new tires, but it looks like it's going to be $1,000. I'll just go ahead and blow it anyway. No, you have to follow the budget. Whatever budget you set up is what you need to follow. And the beautiful thing about that is you're the one who sets the budget. You know, you set that budget each and every month. If you want to go out to Ruth Chris every Friday night this month and you budget for that, you can do that. Or if you only want to go out to eat once a month, you budget for that. What you're in charge of the budget. A budget is actually a game plan. But if you don't budget, see, this is the powerful statement. If you budget, you're telling your money what you want it to do. If you don't budget, your money is out of control. You have no control over your money if you don't budget. So a budget truly is not a four-letter word. It's six letters, but it is powerful because it helps put the boundaries around that river. A river is only going to flow if there's river banks, right? If you don't have river banks, you've got sludge or a pond or whatever. But a river is moving just like money. There's a cash flow. It's currency. It's currency, right? Money is always moving. We have to make sure that we control the movement of that money.
Are you always concerned when a client comes to you and says, I'd like to hire you because I've got money problems? And you say, sure. And they say, what's your rate? And you tell them, and they say, can I pay with a credit card? Is that a problem?
I don't allow them to pay me with a credit card.
I didn't think you would.
No, they either are going to pay me cash or a check or some form of payment such as that. No, that's one thing that I explain to them. Listen, I don't want you going in the hole on a credit card to pay me for your coaching. We have to start off on the right foot. And so the right foot would be not to use that credit card to pay me. So
How many people do you know that walk into, or that you've worked with, that when they come to you in the beginning, they're going into a grocery store and they've got 7 or 8 cards in their hand, and they're going, let's see, I paid $50 on this one, so that means that I've got 50 for groceries, and this one's got $40 on, so I'll pay 50, I can spend 90, and then I've divided between the. Do you have people that are in that bad of shape?
I have had people in that bad of shape, and you just touched base on something, and I want to direct that. I have had people in that bad of shape, and so it's a whole form of rethinking and coaching them in that. But I want to say this because, we live in such a fast paced society right now, right? We have drive through banking, we have drive through fast food. It's amazing to me if there's not a drive through church, right? So we're fast paced. So when we go to the grocery store, we don't want to take the time to take money out of our wallet. Who uses money anymore, right? We use a debit card. So, but here's what I want to say, it's actually cheaper for you to use cash when you go to a grocery store than it is using a debit card. And I'll tell you
That's true.
why. Because if you go to a grocery store and you have a debit card, you might, for the first aisle, make a mental notation of how much you've spent. But by the time you get to the third or fourth aisle, you have no idea. And you're not going to know how much you spent until everything is rung up and you place that debit card in that machine. But if you go to that grocery store with cash, you're pretty mindful of how much you're spending because you want to make sure that when everything is rung up, you have enough money to pay for all those groceries. And you'll actually spend, and this is across the board, whether it's grocery store, department store, what have you will spend 33% more money if you use a debit card or a credit card than you will if you spend cash. Because Carnegie Mellon did a study. This was probably about 18 years ago. And they hooked a person up to an MRI machine, which studies the brain waves. And they simulated this person spending cash. And it activated the pain centers in the brain. And they used the same person and they simulated them spending with a debit card or a credit card. And it did not activate the pain centers of the brain. So it's actually more beneficial to you to use it cash when you spend than it is to use a debit card or credit card. It should be painful when you hand the waiter or the waitress that Benjamin Franklin, that little black tray that they bring your bill on and you place that Ben Franklin on that black tray. That's Ben Franklin's coffin, right? Because that bill is not going to come back to you. You might get some coins back, but it's supposed to be a painful process because you're going to spend less money spending cash than you do with a debit or credit card. So I advise people when you go to the grocery store, anytime you go to a department store, if at all possible, use cash because you're going to spend less.
Well, it's interesting about that because there are two rules of thumb when going to the grocery store. One is don't go when you're hungry.
That's right.
And the other one is to spend cash because if you go in hungry and you've got a debit card and then you have this battle with yourself, do I want that ice cream? Do I need that ice cream? Well, I've got the money in the bank to afford it, and it's more than my budget. It's more than I want to spend, but how badly do I want? So you end up having this fight with yourself, and you generally end up losing because you want the ice cream, and so you get the ice cream, and you get whatever it is, and then you've overspent, and
Right.
you've got to have some discipline, and I know that you teach that.
Oh, you have to have discipline. There's nothing wrong with having even if you have a small reward. I also coach people and teach people, listen, start creating this budget. And each week, when you stay within that budget, reward yourself. What's going to be your reward? Maybe your reward is going to be, this month you're going to go out to a restaurant that you haven't been to in a while because you followed the budget. Now, obviously, whatever your reward is going to be, you need to budget for it. Okay. Or if you're going to go buy a new pair of shoes that you've wanted, reward yourself along the way because that's what's going to keep you going on the straight and narrow path is when you have those little rewards. Hey, I stayed on budget for 3 months. Now, we're going to go take a little weekend trip, even if it's just one night to a cabin or to a hotel, whatever it is, you all decide what that reward is going to be. And it may have to be just a small reward, depending on what your budget is and your financial situation, something to reward yourself along the way.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I had to laugh when my mother, for Christmas, when she was with us, she used to give each of us married couples $800 each.
Okay.
And it was like, woohoo! Well, we have $800 now.
Yeah.
Mine always went into the family budget because
Okay.
I needed to make sure that we had enough for various things. My wife's did not go into the family budget. She never even asked if it should go into the family budget. She didn't want it to go into the family budget. She wanted to go spend, have some money to go play with, and
Right.
so consequently, and so that's part of it too, is to be fair with each other too, right?
Right. That's right. Yeah, there has to be some communication. If you get a windfall of money, if money comes in at Christmas, both of you need to decide, okay, what should we do with this? Maybe there's going to have to be some compromise. Maybe some of it will go into the family budget and the other part will go into a savings. Or maybe you have a credit card that you want to pay off and just be rid of that monthly payment. But communication is such an important key ingredient in managing the money, especially in a marriage relationship. Now, if you are single, if you are not married and you are the boss of your finances, there's usually two types of people. And ultimately, we know in marriages, opposites attract. So usually there's one that's a spender. And if you're the spender, then you're probably married to a saver. And I always tell people, can you identify who's who? And of course they can. Listen, a saver is so very, very important because a saver is going to help you uh, manage your money in such a way that when you reach to retirement, you're actually going to get to enjoy retirement, right? A spender is important because you can start enjoying now. So there's always give and take in a marriage relationship when it comes to money. One's a spender, one's a saver. Now, if you're not married and you're a spender, you really probably need an accountability partner because your tendency is going to be, hey, I don't have to answer to anybody. It's just me. I'm going to do whatever. And that's okay. You can do that, but you need to make sure you start planning now on having some money socked away. If you are a saver, that's great. But make sure that you reward yourself. Don't save everything you make and never get to enjoy the fruits of your labor right now. Yes, you're saving and you're going to be ready for retirement, but you don't have to wait until retirement to actually enjoy life. You can start spending some of that now. You decide how much that's going to be. But do you see what I'm saying? There's got to be a balance in both of those arenas.
Oh
You
no,
right? Oh, yeah.
absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
I have a son.
Mhm.
He's a beautiful boy. He's a 33-year-old man now. He lives alone,
Oh,
and
boy.
he has lived on the philosophy that is pretty good for bankers and for people who want to lend you money. Look, it's only going to be $100 a month,
Oh,
or
boy.
or $150 a month. You can handle $150 a month, and so he never gets around to asking, "Oh, really? What's the interest rate? How fast am I going to pay?"
Oh, no.
And then
Oh,
he
boy.
tends to forget how many $100 a month he has bought into. So he
Right.
ends up with nothing.
Well, you brought up and I'm sorry about that. I'm really sorry
Not
about
not
that.
nearly as sorry as I am, I'm here to tell you.
You know that's another thing. When you go to, let's say you go to a car lot, have you ever noticed that the car dealerships, the cars smell so wonderful? First of all, don't go to a car dealership until you are actually in the market for a car, right?
Bingo.
Because it's going to be too tempting. And those sales people are so well versed. They know what's going to get you, they know what your hook is. So if you're not in the market for a car right now, just stay off the dealership lots. Wait.
Don't
The
tempt.
second thing is when you are in the market for a vehicle, don't buy brand new. Get a vehicle that's 1 or 2 years old. You're still going to have a great warranty, not going to have a lot of miles on it, but you're not going to have to pay for all that depreciation that was on a brand new car the first year or two. Okay. The third point I want to make here is, salespeople are going to tell you, well, it's only going to be X amount of money each month. I don't look at that. I look at, first of all, what's the interest rate and what's the total price of the car. I don't care a hill of beans about that monthly payment.
Right.
First of all, if I buy a car, it's going to be with cash or 0%. Zero. Because if I'm going to make a monthly payment, I'm not going to pay any interest. So it's either going to be cash or 0% interest monthly payment. But don't get hooked into a monthly payment without knowing the interest rate or the total purchase price of that car. When I go to a car dealership, two things I do. I go in and I talk to the salesperson. I say, okay, first of all, I'm not going to be here 3 or 4 hours, first of all. Secondly, I know you're going to say you're going to go talk to your boss about the deal. I know you're back there drinking coffee. You don't have to talk to anybody. The third thing is, I want that car and I want it for this price. And I'll give them the price. And if you can do that today, you will have a sale. If you can't do that today, you're going to save you and me time, and I'll leave now. I'm not going to play any kind of car dealer game and I sit in that office for 3 or 4 hours. I just tell them that straight up honest. And I'm out of there within 45 minutes because I'm not going to spend 4 hours there. And I just tell them, look, I know. And this is, you're going to have a sale today if you can give it to me for that price. But I'm not going to play this back and forth game. Either you can do it or you can't. And if you can, draw up the paperwork. If you can't, I'll leave.
I got, that's a beautiful way to operate. I have a quick story for you about
Okay.
car salesman.
All right.
I was the vice president of the parent teacher council at the elementary school where my kids were going, and the
Okay.
president was a car salesman,
All right.
and he made a deal. He said, anybody that buys a car from me, I will give them $1, or I'll give it to you for $100 over invoice.
Okay.
Sounds like a really good deal, right? So my wife and I go down there and we look at we were looking for a minivan. He
Okay.
shows us a minivan and he gives us the price, and he said, this is only, and he even prints out an invoice. And he says, this is $100 over our cost.
Oh, boy.
And it was a stripped down model and it didn't have anything that we wanted. And so I went down to another dealership that had what's called a no dicker sticker, which
Yes.
means they have a price on the car and that's what you pay. They don't dicker, and that's what it is. And he was like $4,000 less than my friend. So I bought the car.
Oh,
I bought the car from them, and then when we showed up with the brand new car, and I had a bottle of scotch with me to make up for it, and he said, "Well, why didn't you talk to me?" And I said, "So you're telling me that you were lying, and that it wasn't?"
oh boy.
And we lost that friendship after that somewhere, but that's the reality, is that you have got to go in and be firm and have your mindset and do exactly what you said. That's your
Right.
next book, is going to be how to buy a car, because
Oh, hey. That's a good idea.
yeah. Now that's the other thing. I'll bet you that now on the East Coast, I don't know, I haven't tried to buy a car on the East Coast, but out here they have what's called a second sticker,
Okay.
which is the dealer, quote unquote, the dealer markup.
Okay.
And it's all that is fluff. That is just
Right.
extra money, and that's their negotiating position. So when I
Right.
walk into a car dealership, I say, get rid of the second sticker.
Right.
If they don't get rid of the second sticker to start with, then I'm
Yeah.
done. I
Right.
get on my horse and go out the door.
There you go. Yeah, you can, especially car dealerships, you can finagle with them and negotiate. But honestly, if you're just straight up honest, again, don't go to the dealership unless you are ready to buy a car in the market, because otherwise you're going to leave there with a vehicle that you probably should have and could have waited for, you know. So,
And the one this one time I went into this place, and she said, "Well, and they had a second sticker, and she took a little bit off, but she charged me for the second sticker. And she said, well, let me talk. I said, no, you're not going to do that. And she said, well, let me go talk to my boss. I kid you not. The guy walked out and he had slicked back hair like he was a northeast, Chicago mobster and stuff. And it was like, why would I do business with you? Because I can't trust you. I can't even trust your look. So anyway,
Oh, wow.
so I left, but I, and I've looked through your books, and all your stuff is really, really sound financial advice, up to and including you have a book about flipping houses.
I do, and thank you for that wonderful compliment. Yes. Oh, man, I certainly enjoy flipping houses. Um, Real estate has been really good to me, and if you I'm an avid real estate investor. If you have not ever flipped a house, bought property, sold property, and you want to learn how to do that, the book is entitled You Can Do It. And it's almost like a real estate 101 investing book, because what I discuss in that book is buying properties. How can you buy properties? I've bought properties foreclosure, auction, state auditor auction, uh, of wide array of ways to buy properties. And then sometimes I just buy and sell them with a little bit of a markup. Of course, I'm going to make some money off of it. Uh, or buy, fix it up, use it as a rental, and then also buy and flip. So there's different ways of using real estate as an investment tool. And it's been really good to us. I mean, every state has what they call a state auditor office. And what happens is every year, depending on what county you're in, properties that go to the state auditor office because of unpaid taxes. Maybe, Aunt Mildred had real estate that nobody in the family knew about it, and Aunt Mildred passed away and the taxes haven't been paid for 2 or 3 years. Well, that property ends up in the state auditor office. Well, the state auditor doesn't want to hold on to those properties, so they sell them for pennies on the dollar, literally pennies on the dollar. And they set up an auction date, and you show up and you bid. And that's a lot of fun, holding that number up and bidding against other people. And then you win, right? You get that property. There's, there's a process involved because you need to get an attorney to make sure the title deed is clear. And if there's, any family that needs contacted, they have the opportunity to redeem that property. But 9 times out of 10, the property is not redeemed and you end up with the deed. And then you can enter the property and decide what you're going to do with it, whether you're just going to sell it and allow someone else to flip it, or maybe you're going to fix it up put a little money in it, make it a rental, or put a little bit more money in it and flip it. And that actually works out really well, because we have bought and sold properties. And when we've sold properties, at times we've made 300% markup on what we paid for it.
Holy cow.
Someone has bought a property that is very affordable to them. Sometimes people had bad financial times and their credit isn't what it used to be, and they can't get a mortgage loan from a bank. Well, this helps out those people, because I'll be the bank. I'll have a promissory note. I'll have a deed of trust. I can foreclose on them. Hopefully that never happens, but I can foreclose on them if I need to. I don't do rent to own because that makes it very difficult to get them out if they don't pay, but I haven't had any problem. So when you have a deed of trust and you have a promissory note and they make the payment to you, it's a win-win for them, because they bought a property that maybe they couldn't have gotten a mortgage for at a bank. They're making a monthly payment to you, which that's a win for you. And they got a property that was less expensive than what's on the market. And I made a profit. They got a nice house. They can fix it up, and it's a win-win situation. So
That's a really good thing. That's a really good way
it
to.
really is. It helps out a lot of people, to be honest with you. Really helps out a lot of people. So.
Well, and there are folks that, and this happened in 2008. I hope it's not happening now.
Oh, 2008 was a bad year. Yep.
when you could go in. I had to laugh. I was in that was one of those periods of time when my life was like a bad country music song, and I was in financial difficulties, and so I wanted to refinance my house. I walked
Yeah,
into a bank and they said, "Well, how much is it worth?" "Oh, I don't know. I can get 360 for it. I could probably get 320 for it." And they said, "Oh, okay. Here, sign here." And that bank, by the way, is no longer in business
right,
because of those type of lending practices, and a lot of people got caught up in that, and so there were some
right.
houses that were available.
Right. Well, that housing bubble really, I mean, it burst. And so there are places, there are cities, there are developments that literally have no one living in them. They had no one living in them. You're talking about a housing development of over 150 houses that were brand new that were all foreclosed on. No one's living in them because of the housing market bubble being burst that year.
Wow.
That was for several years. It took a little while for the housing market to get back to where it was, but that was a horrible, horrible time. A lot of people really, that was really unfortunately lost their homes. So
Now, because you are an investor, you are really keyed into the market and keyed into the trends. Where do you see the housing market going? Can it continue to go up the way it is?
I think right now it can continue to go up, but I don't know how much longer it's going to continue to go up because we see inflation in a very, it's been pretty rapid. The gas prices have gone up, the food prices have gone up, everything has gone up. But right now, real estate seems to be pretty stable. If where I live in West Virginia, if you're wanting to buy, there's houses to buy. If you want to sell, there's houses to sell. And it seems to be pretty even keel right now, depending on where you live. But right now I think it's going up. I don't know. I don't think in the next couple of years there's going to be an issue per se. But I think probably in a couple of years, if inflation continues to go up, I think you're going to see more people maybe not purchasing homes on the regular market. I think if you're a buyer and seller the way I buy and sell, I think that is where the win is going to be because a lot of people are not going to be buying 200,000, 300,000, 500,000 $1 million homes here in a couple of years. I think inflation is going to cause that to kind of slow down and then perhaps halt where it's just going to stop for a period of time because you can't maintain if your wages don't change and inflation keeps going up. You can't maintain that. So
Yeah, now you're far, far, far younger than I am.
oh, I
Um,
don't know about that. But thank you. I turned 59 in October, so
oh, you're just a child, but I don't know if you remember the late 70s. My sister bought a house, um, oddly enough, for my parents, and the interest rate was 17%
Mhm,
because inflation was running rampant at the time,
mhm.
and that was that was a huge bill just to pay for the interest, and
Right,
so thank I hope we don't ever go back there again. That
right.
was
Well,
terrible.
the days of Jimmy Carter as well. I think there
Yeah,
was a point where the
that's
mortgage
when he was
rates were
president.
23, 24, 25%.
Yep.
And, yeah, nobody was buying. I mean, not nobody, obviously, your sister did. But,
Well, she had to. My
few and
parents were
far
moving.
between. There, were not really a lot of new home buyers at that time because of the interest rates. So,
Yeah.
mhm,
Well, I certainly hope that we are able to maintain an even keel, but I just want to remind people that be careful with your money because 6% inflation means that your money is worth 6% less this year than last.
right.
And you got to be careful. By the way, we're talking with Karen Beth Ford or Karen Ford, however you'd like to do it. And if you'd like to get in contact with her, if you need financial assistance, financial help, she's somebody that can really help you. So how can they get in contact with you?
They can get in contact with me through my website, KarenFord.org. All of my books and products are on the website, and my books are also on Amazon. Or you can email me directly, KarenB1008 @hotmail.com.
And you can maybe get out of debt, because she's got a way to get you out of debt in a remarkably short period of time. And all it takes is a little discipline and doing what she tells you, which is I had to laugh. My sister, I mean, she's a little older than me. She has a financial planner, and she says, don't get one of those because they take your money and they never give it back. Because they put you on a budget.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, they put you on a budget so that if you live to be 100, that you'll have money to survive till then. And so if you, on a whim, they're not going to give it to you back.
That's right.
And nor should they.
Yes.
So it's awesome having you here. I've enjoyed this conversation. Have you?
I have enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, I would like to step aside and give you a moment or two to tell our audience anything that you'd like them to know.
2 things. Budget really is not a 4-letter word. It helps you control your money. And no matter what kind of financial situation you find yourself in, whether you're thinking, wow, I don't know if I can ever get out of debt, there is hope for your situation, because if you got into debt, you can get out of debt.
Unfortunately, it's so damn much easier to get into debt than it is to get out of debt, because it's a remarkably quick decision to go and, hey, I would really like to have that, and then to go pay for it. So trying not to use your credit cards. Trying if you don't have the cash, you can't afford it. Is that one of the cornerstones?
That would be a very big cornerstone. Yes.
Yeah, but then you see the child among us says, no, but I want it now.
That's right. You got to quiet that child down.
Yes, indeed. And also, if you're not making enough money, go find a way to make more.
There you go.
So flipping houses, it can be, and real estate is probably one of the more sound investments that you can make over time.
Absolutely.
So anything else you'd like to say before we wrap it up for today? Because I know you got things to do, and it's 5 o'clock on the East Coast.
It's my pleasure so much to be on here with you today. I certainly enjoyed it.
Well, when the next time you're on, we're going to have you on KKNW, and then we'll take calls and people that want to pay you with credit cards.
Sounds great.
Can you imagine somebody? I need a coach. Here, will you take my credit card?
That's right. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Thank you. Hold on right where you are. I've got to do this, and I'll be right back.
All right.
Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other, because each other's all we got. See you next time on My Independence Report.